Oh, man. Welcome, guys. I'm really excited to be here today. It's been a long journey to get to this point, and I want to go over the story of Prevolve, the technology. I'm going to tell you about the shoes. I could talk for hours, but I'm going to keep it kind of short to like under 20 minutes. I actually want to start, Krista asked me to do this, so we're going to do 1 minute where we're just going to stay here in silence, okay? And we're going to take some time to just listen to our bodies, all right? I've learned that that's a huge part of, you know, staying healthy, staying fit, is just listening to your body. And so we're going to take a minute now just to like breathe, feel all the parts, all right, see what's going on. So I'm going to start a timer. Here we go. That was it. It cut off. Great, nice work. So before I start the story, I want to thank a couple people here. First, I want to thank my parents, Udo and Claire Brosman. Without their support, we wouldn't be here today. Then I want to thank the team, Stephanie, Krista, Justin, for the work they've done the past few months getting us to launch. It's been awesome. Nice work. And then I also want to thank the people who work in this office. So Brian, Justin, Julie, Michael, some of them aren't here today, Austin, Joe. The past year I've been working here, and it's been a real pleasure working with those people. And then also I want to thank a few of the first customers. My good friend Din bought the first pair. Thanks. That was what, 8 months ago. So he believed in something coming, and he's in his shoes, so that's awesome. My sister Abby, younger sister, and her boyfriend Coleman too actually bought a pair. And then also Kevin here has bought a pair. So thank you guys a lot. So to start this story, we gotta go way back to my younger days. That's me, probably 7 or 8, 9, I don't know exactly, but I joined this team called the Ballard Panthers. It was a team of local kids, you know, neighborhood kids. My dad was the coach, and it was really an amazing experience for me. I felt like that team was my family growing up, and I became very passionate about soccer, and you know, I started putting a lot of work into it, and I had this dream of becoming a professional soccer player. That's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And so actually when I was 16, I joined another team. I went to an elite team, probably the best in my age group at the time, Eastside. But actually that was the year when I started to feel the knee pain. So I developed patellar tendonitis in both my knees, and that eventually turned into patellar tendinosis, and I had to have surgery on both knees. And it was really hard for me, and I still feel like the sadness of that, because you know, coming back, I tried to get the physical therapy, tried to do the stretching and the icing, the meds, whatever, to get back into shape, but really my knees were damaged, and my senior year of high school, like I felt the patellar tendonitis coming back, and I knew, you know, I couldn't really go forward with this dream that I had. So it was pretty bad. It sucked. It sucked a lot. I mean, soccer was my life at that point, and it felt very devastating to not be able to do that. So, but actually, at the same time, around that time when I had the surgeries, I read this book called Born to Run. It's a great book, recommend it. And in the book, they talk about this theory of how humans evolved as really good long distance runners. Very good endurance runners. In fact, we would even like run down our prey. This thing called persistence hunting. We just chase them, and they just get tired, and then we eat them. And so I was reading this and like scratching my head, like, why did I get hurt running? And in the book, they talk a lot about barefoot running, and so I started trying this minimalist running, barefoot running, in the Vibram, the 5-finger shoes. And immediately I noticed in my lower legs, my calves, my feet, there was muscles that had been dormant, just unused, and they were suddenly getting fired up. And I mean, it was hard at first, a lot of pain, but it was like, these muscles are good for doing stuff. Why haven't they been doing stuff? So, I was a little bit angry. I was like, I've been using the wrong footwear, and I was looking for options out there for a minimalist soccer cleat. That's kind of how this all started. I was cutting up my cleats, and I was noticing with a little bit more flexibility that my legs were getting a little more engaged. My knees weren't quite as sore after playing soccer. But the problem was, when you cut a shoe in half, it falls apart pretty quick. So they would only last 4 or 5 games and then be unusable. But the idea had started to form there. And in the meantime, I was working and I was going to school. I studied accounting, and I was pretty close to just going down that path. Just kind of the normal, college and then a career. But the idea was kind of embedded in my mind, and eventually I was like, you know what, someone needs to go out and make these shoes to make this product that could help people. So I quit college. I dropped out of college with about 2 quarters left. And then I did go to a startup. That guy right there was my boss, Stefan. Perfect timing. I worked at a startup for about 5 months, and they actually sponsored the event, so thanks, Stefan. Really awesome food, healthy food. But yeah, so I worked there for 5 months, but I knew I was going to do this thing, and so I also left that job, and I moved into my parents' basement, and I started Prevolve. And so the idea with Prevolve is to build products that are really in harmony with the human body, that are, we're looking at the body first and trying to understand it, and then we're going to go and we're going to just design something that's really going to work well with it, not going to cause these problems, like I had. And that's really the mission of Prevolve, which is to empower the human body. So I'm going to go through each piece of our technology and just kind of explain some of the obstacles, where we are today, just kind of a brief overview of how we actually make these shoes. So when I started, I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd done a little bit of 3D printing at that point. I had built my own 3D printer, but I had one prototyping class, I had one programming class, but I just had a passion for making these shoes. I didn't really have the skills yet, and so I had to kind of look around for different pieces of technology, and I started, actually, this was my first shoe, and with this shoe, the scanner I was using was this handheld scanner. So I had this this dresser with like an acrylic platform you put your foot on. I would go all the way around your foot and get every little piece. But it was not a consistent process. I mean, it gave out not a very good shape. But now we have this professional scanner, this foot scanner we got from China, and we feel like we've really got it kind of dialed in, and it's pretty quick. You come in, We scan your foot. It's about 5 minutes maybe to get a scan, and it gives a good shape every time. So we're happy to have this scanner. One note with these guys is they like to go on holidays and not talk to you for a few weeks. So just be careful of Chinese suppliers, or just be aware of that, I guess. So the design aspect, at first I was using SolidWorks. This shoe was made in SolidWorks, which is a CAD program, which is more for engineering. And it's hard to really model an organic shape correctly. So I did that for a few months, and then I stumbled upon Grasshopper, which is a much more flexible programming design software. And it creates really nice organic shapes, and like you can see in the back here we have the prototypes. That this was kind of one of the earlier, once I switched over, could get a much better shape, create some nice designs. So the third piece of technology is 3D printing, and it's probably the most difficult out of the three, honestly. It's a newer technology, and because it's hardware, there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. We've had clogging, we've had tangled filament. I mean, there's just tons of problems. And we finally found a printer that we really like for production. It hasn't been causing as many problems as other printers. We've definitely had to dial it in and find the right settings and all that. But we're really happy with the printer that we've found. Actually, I have a nice analogy about this. So, flexible filament, right? It's stretchy, and it's not very stiff. So when you're trying to print this stuff, I like to compare it to like you're gonna take a rope and you're gonna try and plunge a toilet. Like it's not really gonna work, right? You're not gonna be able to push that stuff out of there. You don't have the stiffness. So when you're printing the flexible, you really need this entire encasing where it's
close the blinds so people can see.
Yeah, where it's perfectly supported so it can't kink, and you have to support it to give it that stiffness. So yeah, we've struggled with that, but we feel like we're getting to a nice product now. So this whole process, I just want to compare it a little bit to how shoes are normally produced. Normally they're produced, mass production. You've got huge industrial machines. You've got a lot of material waste. You have, tens to hundreds of components in each shoe, and you have a ton of manual labor to make the shoe. And don't get me wrong, like you get a good product after that, right? You get a quality product. But in order to adjust their design or make a new design, it requires a huge investment in just making small changes. For us, with this kind of streamlined process, we can test stuff out in like a week. I mean, we can change a little feature, we can print it out 24 hours, put the shoes on, go for a run, and we immediately know like, oh, did that work? Is that a good feature on the shoe? And we think that kind of rate of iteration gives us a long-term advantage. Right now, I mean, we're still starting out, but I think our trajectory is really to overtake those other shoe manufacturers. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And so I'm just going to take you through how your shoe would actually be produced. So if you got a foot scan, we save it, we have it on our system, we take that foot scan, we put it in our design software. It creates a shoe model that is specific to that scan, right? So there's not any part of the shoe that's like a cookie cutter shape or a base shape. It's all based off of that input scan. So we make the shoe model, we slice it in software to give it layers, and the layers are less than 0.2 millimeters thick, which is close to like a human hair. So super fine layers, cut it down, and then that gets created, or that gets changed to code which the printer can run.
Like coordinates.
Coordinates, exactly. So we just stick it in, hit go, and depending on the size of your foot, it's anywhere from 24 to 30 is kind of like an average. You can get up to 35 bigger,
Hours.
35 hours if you have a bigger shoe. But yeah, so we take off the print, we do a little bit of post-processing, and then we deliver it. Pretty straightforward. So now I want to just talk about the shoes a little bit. So today we're launching the BioRunners. This is a running shoe, custom fit running shoe. I really like these. Like, I've been running in minimalist shoes for a long time, and I feel like these are a really nice balance between giving you protection, giving you enough cushion where you can run on concrete for, you know, I've been running 11 or 12 mile runs in these and I feel great, where normally in the sandals I used to wear, it's like 5 miles and my feet are starting to kind of feel that pressure of hitting the hard ground. But at the same time, it still gives you that feeling of like, oh, I'm engaging my whole leg, I'm using my lower leg and my feet, I can feel those muscles working. So I really like how it's kind of blended and found a nice sweet spot for both those ideas. Let's see, so I'm gonna walk through the features of the shoe. I like that.
That's an important feature.
Yeah, that's important.
The most important.
So on the upper we have this texturing, this fingerprint texture, and it's supposed to kind of wick away the water from. There's some holes on top, so it's kind of to keep the ventilation for getting your feet too wet, you know. But we also like how it looks. I think it's kind of cool. So then you have the ventilation holes on top, some texturing on the inside to keep your foot a little bit cooler, a little better airflow. We got this ID on the inside, so you get your initials, the date it was printed, and the production number. And on the bottom, on the tread, we have some flexible tread lines that actually match up with your toes, so it gives you kind of a nice feeling of flexibility when you're running that mimics your foot. Inside of the sole, there's a honeycomb infill, and if you come over here and you look on top of the print, you'll be able to see that. But it's a really strong structure. You see it in nature, honeycomb, and it's going to give you a super light sole that's like bouncy, has good feedback. That's a recent addition. We really like that infill.